If you're on a GLP-1 medication like I am, you probably know how important protein and fiber are to support your health and your weight loss. I just took my 72nd GLP-1 shot. I'm down somewhere around 43 pounds. And today I want to show you 10 things that I keep in my freezer because they help me meet my protein and fiber goals. They sit well with my GLP-1 digestion. I like to eat them and they're really nutritious. The last one is something I really didn't start buying until I was on a GLP-1. So stick around for that. Okay, let's go. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Bobby, and I've been sharing my GLP-1 health journey after menopause for the past 16 months. Real quick, I'm not a medical doctor. I am a therapist, but I'm not your therapist. So nothing here is medical advice, mental health advice, or anything like that. This is just my experience and sharing kind of what I've learned and what I'm doing that's working for me. So always talk to your own healthcare providers when you're figuring out what to do for yourself. Okay, let me give you a little rundown of where I'm at now. My starting weight was 210.1 pounds, and I'm currently somewhere in the high 160s. I only do a monthly weigh-in, and it's been a few weeks. But last time I weighed myself, it was in the high 160s. 167, maybe? I don't remember. I didn't really struggle a lot with my weight until after menopause. I did need to lose some weight now and then before menopause, but I was always able to do it. And after menopause, no matter what I did, everything that used to work just stopped working. And the GLP-1 is the only thing that's helped me to be able to lose weight by doing all the things that you usually do to lose weight, like be in a calorie deficit, exercise, all that stuff. I don't have a goal weight. I just want to be at a healthy body fat percentage, and I'm getting close to that. So at some point in the coming weeks or months, I'll be starting maintenance. But right now I'm still a little bit overweight. I didn't realize that I was making a series when I first made a video about things I eat on repeat. I'll link to that video, but I divided that episode into fridge, pantry, and freezer. And I've since made an episode dedicated to my pantry and then dedicated to my fridge. And this is the one dedicated to my freezer. I'll put it in a playlist and you can watch them all if you haven't seen them yet. I remember finding out the research years ago that foods that are frozen at their peak freshness are just as nutritious when you defrost them as when they were fresh. And I was so happy because I will keep foods in my freezer and eat through my freezer, eat through my pantry, rather than going back to the grocery store. It's just so much more convenient to keep things in the freezer. They're always there ready for you when you want them, and you don't have to worry about them going bad. So having my freezer stocked with things that I know I like is really going to help me stay on track with my eating. So these 10 things aren't the only things in my freezer, but they're the ones that I tend to go to again and again, or the ones that I really make sure are always there waiting for me. And some of these are specific brands of things that I've really kind of honed in on. And other things are just like a generic food, and it doesn't really matter to me what brand I buy. I'll just look for whatever's on sale that week. Okay, number one, don't laugh. My husband calls these my emotional support peas because I love eating a steamer bag of frozen peas. I mean, I microwave them. It's just a comfort food for me. I don't know what it is, but I will just eat a plain bowl of peas. And they are packed with fiber and protein. I'll put the nutritional information up here. And it's not the only way I eat peas. I mean, I'll put them in pasta, I'll put them in all kinds of things. But yeah, a bowl of peas is something that I'll often eat. And so I always keep steamer bags of peas in my freezer. The second thing I always keep in my freezer is frozen berries. My two favorite to keep are raspberries and wild blueberries. Wild blueberries are smaller than regular blueberries and actually more nutritious. I find these bags at almost every grocery store that I shop at. I shop at Publix and Walmart and some other ones. And so I've been buying this kind of wild blueberry. I will put these in my oatmeal. I'll put them in smoothies, put them on yogurt or in yogurt parfaits, in pancakes. Blueberries are one of those really nutrient-dense superfoods because of all of the antioxidants in them, and they're linked to all kinds of health benefits like decreased inflammation, lower blood pressure, and reduced risk of cardiovascular disease. So luckily, I love blueberries, and funnily enough, I rarely buy them fresh in blueberry season. I just tend to rely on the frozen blueberries. Raspberries I like to keep around because not only do I like them, but they're very high in fiber. Most of the berries are high in fiber, but raspberries even more so. I don't like them in smoothies though, because when you blend them, the seeds bother me in the smoothie. But everything else that I would use the other berries for, like in oatmeal and parfaits and just eating them plain, I love raspberries. We have two freezers. The one, in our kitchen that's part of our fridge, and then we have an upright freezer in our garage to store things that we buy in bulk. And one thing we like to keep in that freezer is frozen salmon. For several years, my husband and I ordered salmon from a collective of small family fisheries in Alaska. So we were getting Alaskan salmon shipped to us in a box, in a freezer box, and supporting, what are they? Fishermen families? I don't know what to call them. And we ended up with quite a stockpile of salmon, and we're eating through that still. We cut off the subscription recently, and we're eating through all of that salmon. Salmon is another thing that A, I really like, and B, is considered a superfood because of all of its nutritional value. It's a fatty fish, and it's the healthy kind of fat with the heart-healthy omega-3 fatty acids, and it's also a really high quality complete protein. Also, it's not a fish that has heavy metals in it, so you don't have to worry about how often you eat salmon the way that you would with respect to tuna and other deep sea fish. The antioxidant that gives salmon its pink color is called astaxanthin, and astaxanthin helps combat inflammation and helps reduce oxidative cell damage. And salmon is also one of the few natural food sources of vitamin D. So I like to try to eat some salmon every week, and keeping really high quality frozen salmon on hand is really helpful. You might have heard me talk in past episodes about the salmon packets that I keep on hand, and I really like those too. They are so convenient. But sometimes you want like a good piece of salmon and not just salmon that you kind of treat like tuna salad. And so keeping these in my freezer means that whenever the mood strikes me, I just have to defrost a couple fillets for dinner. In fact, we just did this the other night. Got some salmon on some cheesy cauliflower mash and some sauteed chard that my husband and I made for dinner. If you're enjoying this, please hit like. Remember to subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and feel free to share it with someone who you think might enjoy this episode. I also have an email newsletter that I send out every 2 weeks. There's a link in the description below to subscribe to the newsletter, and when you subscribe, you'll get an automatic welcome email that has my protein smoothie recipe in it. The email newsletter is usually stuff that didn't fit into the episode, or that I forgot to put in episodes, or that's a little too personal, and it's a nice way to stay in touch. The next thing I really like to keep in my freezer is a container of fresh spinach. Even though spinach lasts a pretty good while in the fridge, I really like keeping a container in the freezer because I know it will last a really long time. And yeah, once you put it in the freezer, you can't eat it fresh in salads, but you can put it in smoothies and you can cook it and eat it as a side dish or as an ingredient in pasta dishes or soups. So I always have some spinach on hand, and it's actually easier to work with a container of frozen spinach leaves where you can grab a handful or grab as much as you want than those bricks of frozen spinach where you either need to like defrost and use the whole thing or break off a little chunk for a smoothie or something. And I just find it much easier to keep a whole container of spinach leaves in my freezer. I'm much more apt to use spinach like that than if I have to, chop off hunk of frozen spinach to put in my smoothie. And if you're noticing a theme of superfoods that I keep in my freezer, you're right. Spinach is another superfood. It's an excellent source of iron and folate and calcium and vitamin A and C and K. I don't think that I'm telling you anything you don't know, that spinach is really good for you. So basically any way that I can find to eat spinach on a regular basis, I will do. Okay, these next couple are not superfoods, but they are things that I like to keep on hand to increase my enjoyment of meals and to make getting my protein and my veggies in more convenient. This first one is mashed cauliflower. Lately, I've been buying this Kevin's brand of mashed cheesy cauliflower, but honestly, this is one of those things where I'm not like super loyal to any particular brand, and there are several different brands of companies that make mashed cauliflower. Also, it's quite easy to make it yourself, but you do have to steam it and then mash it, kind of like making mashed potatoes. And it's obviously not as convenient as buying it pre-made, although it is less processed. So I can probably count on one or maybe two hands the number of times I've made mashed cauliflower from scratch. But buying it, oh, it's so easy. You just have this like instant side dish. Cauliflower is a cruciferous vegetable, so it's very good for you. And yeah, when you buy it pre-made like this, it is higher in fat and it's got other ingredients in it, but I'm still getting a really nice dose of cauliflower, and it just kind of elevates a meal nutritionally and in terms of how much I enjoy it. I also really like mashed potatoes, so I don't always eat mashed cauliflower in place of mashed potatoes, but it is nice to have a less starchy version of a mash available if I feel like, maybe I've had enough starch that day, or maybe I'm just more in the mood for mashed cauliflower. This next one is something super convenient that I like to have on hand for nights when I'm not particularly in the mood to cook and I don't have something kind of meal prepped on hand, and that is a bag of frozen meatballs. Tell me if you have any super creative ideas for them, because I've basically been putting them in spaghetti. And spaghetti and meatballs, it's a classic. I really like it. And when you can defrost the meatballs in a jar of sauce, super easy and high in protein. I do read the ingredients of the meatballs I'm buying. This one I'm picturing, this Publix brand of turkey meatballs I like. And there are other ones too, but I just try to find ones that don't have too many fillers or preservatives. This next one I've been doing for many years, but I've found myself buying it more frequently since being on a GLP-1, and that is big bags of mixed veggies. You can imagine there's no end to how you can use these. I think the reason why I've been going through them more on a GLP-1 is that I am less like food obsessed. A lot of times I know I need a healthy meal and I'm just not feeling that like interest in food because of the GLP-1. And so that's when I would reach for some kind of pre-made protein, like if I've prepped some protein or if I've got, frozen meatballs or something, and a bag of steamer veggies, or pulling from a big bag of mixed veggies. Right now I happen to have root veggies in my freezer, but a lot of times it's a bag of mixed broccoli and cauliflower. So knowing that my appetite isn't huge and that I want to get a lot of nutrition in, I just picture this like I'm throwing handfuls of vegetables at myself from the freezer. Just pulling out of the bag and throwing them in my mouth. Not really. I defrost them, I swear. And why mixed? Partly so that I don't get tired of any one particular vegetable, and also because I know that the wider variety of foods you eat, the more you're covering your bases in terms of nutrients. So that's why that I choose mixed. The next one is around meal prep and prepping my protein. I decided to go with frozen chicken breasts. It's probably the one I do a little bit more often. Chicken thighs, boneless, skinless chicken thighs, I really like. But my husband doesn't like them as much, and I like chicken breasts just fine, so I probably use those a little bit more often. Either way, it's the same story. We've got several pounds of them in our upright freezer in our garage, and I know that I can just grab one, stick it in the fridge overnight, and that next day I've got chicken to prep. It's more than we can eat in one meal, so we'll cook it up, we'll have it for that meal, and we'll have leftovers for meals going forward. It is more economical to buy it in bulk. I buy organic chicken at Costco, but this is just a very healthy, lean protein that I rely on again and again to get my protein in while I'm on a GLP-1. I've talked about this next one before, but it bears repeating because I love it so much and it's so good for you. It's shelled edamame. I say shelled because you can buy edamame in the shell, frozen, and that's really good, but I like them shelled because it's easier. When they're in the shell, I'll eat them as a snack, but I like using the shelled ones just as an ingredient in salads, in soups, in pastas, and just as a snack. A half a cup of shelled edamame has 9 grams of protein. So you can just add a half a cup to a meal as like a garnishy ingredient and bump your meal up by 9 grams of protein. That same half a cup also has 8 grams of fiber. So this is another superfood. I kind of treat them like peas or lima beans. When you're out in restaurants, you see them more often in Japanese restaurants and used in Asian cooking. But in my own kitchen, I just kind of use them as beans or peas. And they're super healthy and they taste really good. This last one is the Food for Life Ezekiel sprouted multi-grain English muffins. And yeah, this is bread, but it's in the freezer section. I don't actually eat a lot of bread, but I really like these muffins. I've talked about them before in other episodes, so they might sound familiar to you if you've watched my channel before, but I keep talking about them because I keep buying them and I keep eating them. If I'm having a breakfast sandwich, it's on one of these muffins for sure. If I'm having a peanut butter and banana open-faced sandwich, it's on one of these muffins. They're high in fiber, they're high in protein, and the sprouted grains are more nutritious and easier to digest than regular grains. There's something about the germination of the grains when they sprout that breaks down starches and makes vitamins and minerals like zinc, iron, magnesium, makes all of those more bioavailable. It also boosts the protein and fiber content when your grains are sprouted. Sprouted grains also have a lower glycemic index than regular grains, and so you won't have as much of a spike in blood sugar. I do notice that I will never get like a carb crash from these English muffins. They really agree with me, and they have a very nice kind of nutty flavor. So I really like this particular brand of English muffin. If you can't find it, sprouted grain breads in general have that boost in nutrition and protein and fiber. So look for sprouted grain breads.
It's very sleepy editing, Bobby, and I'm putting the finishing touches on this episode and realizing that I never closed the loop on how this last thing, the Ezekiel English muffins, I never really ate before I was on GLP-1. For so long, I was afraid of carbs. And I've learned a lot about food being on a GLP-1, and also healed my relationship with food since I've been on a GLP-1. And I eat a much more balanced diet now. I'm not afraid of carbs. I'm not afraid of grains, but I do continue to avoid highly processed grains. So like an English muffin that's made with white flour is, the grain has just been like stripped of all of its nutrients. And I don't eat those unless I'm like, at a Dunkin' Donuts and I'm getting a breakfast sandwich or something. But on a regular basis, I don't eat those. So something like this where it's grains, but it's healthy whole grains that are sprouted, like I said, it agrees with me, and it just feels like a much healthier alternative.
So that's it, my 10 GLP-1 freezer essentials. If you missed my What's in My Fridge episode from last week, I will link to it up here and you can watch that next. See you next week. Bye.